Hunt, Gone Fishing, and The Suicide. He's also the editor of Sandhills and Other Geographies, an anthology of Nebraska poetry, and that's one of my personal favorites. That's used a lot here in the Heritage Room as a good collection of the various Nebraska writers. And he also edited On Common Ground, which features poetry and discussions of Clef Corn Kuzma, and Don Welsh. And Mark is also the editor and publisher of Sandhills Press, which a couple of these volumes has appeared in that series, and which Mark tells me that a number of other volumes featuring Nebraska authors are going to be appearing in the future. Mark has had approximately 200 of his poems appear in poetry journals and publications throughout the years, and he's currently working for a doctorate at UNL. Mark?
I always kind of like to start off with a couple of silly things I call silly Sanders, because I don't get a chance to do them very often, and they're probably not very good to begin with. I was going to stop at Shopko on the way up here and get a can of car wax so I can come up here and wax poetic, but my wife didn't think that's a very good idea. So, instead of doing that, I'll just go ahead and start off with a couple of things. The first of these is a poem that I wrote several years ago and was published in Light Year, an annual of funny verse and light poems. And it's about the area of the state that I grew up in. And so I'm going to ask you to jump in my car and drive across the sandhills of Nebraska. You will be on vacation, driving your wife, your 3 kids, and your yapping poodle across the sandhills to South Dakota to see Mount Rushmore. 25 miles from the nearest town, you will see the first windmill off in the distance on a hill. Why would anyone drill on a hill, you wonder? It doesn't matter. The windmill's tail is loose. The wheel goes on spinning hell-bent for election. And your kids have been counting. 56,000 fence posts, 2 crows eating a dead rabbit, 1 snake. And you think, the only steer I've seen since Burwell is that white-faced Angus by that windmill, thirsty, no doubt, and skinny as a rail. And you notice there's not much grass out here, just a lot of sand and blowouts. Blowouts worry you. You simultaneously hope your car doesn't get one, and that you have enough air in your spare. You say aloud, we'd be up the creek without a paddle then. Your wife says, what, dear? And you are, because 2 miles later, the right front blows, leaving you stuck right smack dab in the middle of the biggest damn sandbox your kids have ever seen. You're wondering how Lawrence of Arabia would handle this. Your 69,440 fence posts, 3 crows, and 2 dead rabbits from the nearest town. You look at your spare. It's as flat as a sheep herder's daughter. So everyone piles out of the car, including that stupid poodle, and it's hot. Your wife fans herself with a Black Hills tourist map. Your kids kick dust. And as the poodle lifts his leg to piss steam, you can only hope he'll evaporate. Instead, he's busy barking at sunflowers. You imagine a bee the size of a bowl mistaking him for a daisy and sucking him dry. That you bury him in a badger hole thinking it serves him right. While your wife, dabbing her eyes with a Kleenex, tells you to say a few words for the kids' sake. Right now, they're off chasing magpies. Your wife is looking for shade. You wish you had a cold beer. You wish your wife and kids would dry up and blow away. But when a hungry gopher gives you the eye, you wish you could blow away too, believing at the same time, with my kind of luck, I'd get stuck on a fence. And you're wondering just how long you're going to be stuck here. Your wife has her shoes off and is picking her toenails. Your kids have a turtle turned upside down. And when you're about to walk to the nearest ranch house some 5,000 fence posts away, a cowboy shows up driving a Scout. He's wearing a plaid shirt with shiny buttons, Tony Llama boots made from artificial alligator hide, a beat-up white Stetson, and a pair of stiff Levi's. His belt, handmade in Taiwan, has the name Tex engraved on it. You think, he must be from Texas. What you don't know is that he's from Maryland. That doesn't matter. What matters is he's going to help you. That's the code of the West. He hitches you up and pulls you to the nearest chaplain station, the great name in the Great Plains. He doesn't ask you what happened, doesn't care where you've been. After all, he's done this maybe 87,000 times before, fought off more hungry gophers than you can shake a stick at, put wells on top of hills. As they say out here, straight as the crow flies, nothing surprises him. I decided I wanted to do this next one because of the Oklahoma football game this weekend. It gives me a chance to try my Okie dialect out. It's been a few years since I've tried it, so I don't know if I can do it anymore. A while back, I kind of thought I would try to do a number of voice poems about small-town murders. And I had this idea all sketched out for about a dozen of those things, and this is the only one I ever wrote. So I've got the idea still stuck in the back of my head someplace. This is called the Cowley County Murders 1958, The Deputy's Report. It puzzled us, sure. 5 dead in the house, shot in the chest at the dinner table. The windows blasted out. The hired man found in the barn strung up from a rafter with baling wire. His belly ripped open, his guts jerked out, and the pigs there squealing. And all them people with their teeth pulled. Couldn't find a molar anywhere. And we looked. No prints on the furniture, none on the doors. We figured he must have worn gloves. For 2 weeks, Boss had us all on the lookout for anything strange. Then a pawnbroker called, said someone brought in gold nuggets, crowns, and we was off. Got a good description and a couple more leads from some auxiliary ladies planning nasturtiums on the square. Next day, we broke up a poker game in a pool hall back room, and this little Mexican with a full house we grabbed and found in his boot a Durham sack with a tooth in it. Outside, he broke and tried to run, but my buddy John up and shot him, right between the shoulder blades. A 30-30 and a damned fine shot. He fell like a ladder. No one claimed him, so Boss gave the undertaker a coonhound pup, and each of us got one of the killer's teeth to keep. Me, I put mine on a gold chain for luck. See here, getting yellow-brown. The dead folks were the Thompsons. Lived off Dane Creek Road. Good people. Had a smile for everyone. After Liberace died, I was thinking about trying to write a poem about him going up to heaven at the gate with St. Peter, waiting for the gates to swing open and give him a chance to get at the cherubims. But I had a friend who wrote a poem about Liberace about 5 years ago, and I figured, well, I better not write another poem about Liberace because this guy is going to think I copied him. And so I decided instead to write a poem about the death of a Vaudevillian. If I can't have Liberace, I'll take a Vaudevillian. And what I did in this thing was kind of use Henny Youngman as my model. Of course, Henny Youngman's not dead yet. His jokes have been dead for a long time, but I thought he might be fair game. And so this is called The Death of the Vaudevillian. This is another one that got picked up by the Light Year Anthology. Friends surround his bed. A magician in a far corner pitches cards at his top hat. In a vase on a desk sit the flowers he pulled from his sleeve. A little girl with a head of curls does the soft shoe. Only mother applauds the act. The good ship lollipop swamps in solemnity. For each minute he lives, a stripper pulls off another long glove. To the beat of the life supports, she bumps and grinds. What shtick. A straight man tells him an old joke. A fella tells me he knew a man with a wooden leg named Smith. I asked him, what's the name of the other leg? A big-boobed blonde in a nurse's cap starts crying, Doctor, doctor. The vaudevillian doesn't respond. He readies himself for a final performance. A great curtain rises. Applause thunders, horns and drums howl. The top bananas are on stage. Ah, yes, W.C. Fields juggling, Ray Bolger dancing, and all in red with red boa Gypsy Rose Lee. The drum, bump, 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 bump. Pies and comics and nameless girls in feathery costumes. The drums roll. The cymbals of paradise clash. Suddenly his turn in the spotlight, his big break, his punchline, timing. The timing must be perfect. Take my wife, please. That's the Henny Youngman influence, of course. Actually, when I started writing that thing, I thought that he had already died, and I was very disappointed that he hadn't. Anyway, going on. The next couple poems are, I guess, family poems. All of the poems, except for the first one, are from a collection that I call Heritage for the moment. I may change the title at another date if I don't get it picked up one of these years real soon. Maybe years. This poem here is called Heritage, and it's about my father. And my father was, I guess, a war baby back in World War I. His mother never ever told him who his real father was or anything, and so that's part of my heritage. I've often wondered exactly what kind of lineage I came from and all of that. The poem is prefaced by a line from Anne Sexton's poem called Wanting to Die. The line goes, "The love, whatever it was, an infection. Dakota winter, more wind than snow, though snow was constant, more cold than a warm heart could bear. She found a man and loved, or was his victim, she knew which. Abuse my father's heritage. Such blows he lived with, bastard son of a woman the legitimate world would fault. Could he ask? She locked the earth around her secrets. Conceived in cold, born in it, cold was kin. Dark past torn, a fragment wonders who I am." The thing I tried to do with that poem, too, was it's a sonnet in 10 lines. So I on purpose left out a quatrain. Some people say I can't do that, but I did it anyway. Now, the next poem is, I guess, my part of heritage, or what I have done for the sake of my children and whatever. I can't really say that I've been around the world, but I've been around the block a few times in a few small towns and strange neighborhoods, and consequently, there is a possibility that there would have been a couple of other children of mine running around out there besides the 3 I have at home right now. And this is called The Other Two. 1. The man she calls Daddy knows nothing except that she's his daughter, age 5 now, excited about kindergarten, afraid of snakes, as I am, curious about bugs, a lover of dirt, a tomboy. She has a dog her mother named Fido. She's proud of a pony Daddy's bought her, but Mommy, the woman I loved and slept with 8 times while she was engaged with this other fellow, won't let her ride. Afraid as she is of horses. Mommy won't listen to her pleas. Daddy tells his daughter, wait, we'll see. Mommy hopes everything continues much the way it has. She remembers the empty apartment, the crisp smell of rain coming in through the windows. I had taken a job in another town. We moved all my furniture out and came back to clean up the emptiness. Then ignorance became privilege. My daughter runs across the yard spooking the geese to meet Daddy coming in from the field on his tractor. She wrestles her mutt. She ferrets eggs from the chickens' nests. I'm sure she sings songs. Sometimes Daddy takes her into town in his pickup truck, buys her a pop at the co-op, and they sit together on salt licks and hear the old men talk. Her hair is curly, wild, akin to what was best about her mother. 2. The marriage gone wrong, she boarded the bus and made the long ride to Omaha. A clinic and the final separation, no further bonds. Later, she'd laugh about it, haunting me by phone late at night at an hour she knew I'd be asleep. Put the knife in a little deeper, give it a quick twist, giggle, hang up, then leave me reading the ceiling for light, for cracks. Okay. Then after all that stuff, I moved down to Springfield, Missouri, where I spent 5 years. And while I was down there, I met my wife that I am still married to today. We have been together for about 6 years now. And this is a poem called The Moments. It's about the beginning of that particular relationship and the beginning of certain good things that have been going on since. And what I try to do here in 4 sections is provide a couple of moments, I guess, that I thought were special. And a long time ago, I wrote this poem for the very first time, and I tried to get it published for years. Finally got picked up by a magazine called The Fiddlehead in Canada, and just recently was published. During that interim of trying to find a magazine to take the thing, I found a quote by William Butler Yeats that described exactly what I was trying to do with the moments. And the quote from Yeats goes, "The sensuous image is changed at predestined moments called initiatory moments. One sensuous image leads to another." Okay, the moments. 1. Our first date, we went to a fancy restaurant, ate crab meat sauced over sirloin tips, drank tea. Later, ready to kiss her goodnight, the meal made me sick. I turned away, retched on her father's freshly cut lawn. She stood there on a step, unable to help, asking. Strange, but I loved her then. She wringing her hands like wet cloths, biting her lips white. I thought it was ruined, but chilled in the April night damp, the moist clinging like ice to the grass, she told herself she could love me, richer, poorer, in sickness, in health. 2. I recall little about the first time we made love, except that guilt spidered up my spine, that despite it I laughed hard at climax that delighted my body so much. We lay there afterwards, the wind finding its way through the window and finding us, saw the night whited flat of our bellies rising, falling with each breath. We called north 800 miles to a friend. On his farm he'd been tilling soil, fighting the wet. By night, working under his house, digging out a basement. His bowling team was losing in league. A friend was having trouble with his marriage. How small his voice was, we on the huge earth of our bed. 3. When I took her home to Nebraska, she asked questions. How a pivot waters crops, runs in circles over wide fields, how pigs are castrated, cows milked, how hands on the udders keep warm in the winter. I told her, wheels and sprinklers, water pumps and fuses, sharp knives, razor blades, machines, gloves. Would we drive through Omaha? I told her, Omaha's not Nebraska, but a growth like a lump on her breast. We went visiting one night in the country where muddy roads scared her, the dark where no streetlights shone to light us the way. Arriving, we found decoys set out on the lawn from a hunt. She thought they were ducks asleep. We teased her about it over cards, she holding a flush in her hand. 4. Going for a walk in the woods, we came into a clearing, saw what we thought was a woodchuck, but couldn't really tell it was gone that quick, seeing us and our dog on its leash pulling hard to get at it. Found that same afternoon a spring leaping from a crack in the limestone. The water was cold as we cupped our hands to take a drink, and it was sweet, and life was sweet. I had alluded that I had 3 children at home at the moment, and this is a poem about those 3 kids. Try as I might, I can't get my kids to sleep in their own bed. Every night I have at least one there, sometimes all 3. It's lucky I have a king-size bed, because otherwise I'd be chased out to the couch or something. And something about sleeping in their own bed scares them to death. And it's been a terrible thing that we've been trying to break forever. And finally my oldest one, who is 4, is starting to sleep in her own bed, but she has to get paid to do it. Every morning she gets up, I have to give her 10 cents. You know, that's the price for sleeping in your own bed. And so anyway, I don't know what I'm going to do with the other 2. I'm going to run out of money before I get through them. But this is a poem called These Children. It was just picked up by Midwest Quarterly, which made me very happy. I've been trying to get my poems in Midwest Quarterly for several years. I got my first rejection slip from them back in 1974 when the editor said, "You need more practice anyway." So, you know, it's finally, a strange love affair finally came around. But anyway, this is that. I have it prefaced by a line from Robert Bly's Meeting the Man Who Warns Me. The line goes, "Who is this that visits us from beneath the earth? And I hope maybe that line comes clear after I read the thing. These children, who sometimes wake and slip to my bed during thunder and lightning slash, who meet incomprehensible terror in their dreams and run, take comfort in my snoring, that erasure of my day-rooted rage. They find a kind of dark peace in my covers. But what can they know? Not death, debt, and the heart's bankruptcy. Not that old man who stands in the mirror mocking me. Day by day he is there, stepping from the shadows to unveil the darkened eyes, the grayish skin. When he turns to enter his cave, looking back over his shoulder, I turn to my own. Yet, is his cave any darker? Have these children seen that smirking man too? Or how the earth's full hands tremble with panic? Sometimes my children clutch a stone of fear, and tremorous night brings them down the crooked leaning hall to my sleep. Silent and approachable, I must share this my common bed, the stones from my sleeping hands dropped. Another poem I wanted to read tonight in recognition of the forthcoming game is a poem I call Winners and Quitters. I'm not very athletic, and I purposely have avoided being athletic after a certain bad experience in junior high. And this is a poem about that particular experience. We had a coach in junior high who turned a bunch of perfectly good kids into a bunch of fascists, and I happened to be on the outside of the circle after everything was all said and done because of some circumstances. If I had stayed inside the circle, I could have been a fascist too, and so I was disappointed about that, I guess. Anyway, this is prefaced by a line from Gary Gildner's First Practice, and the line is, "Men who hate to lose as much as I do." Coach came into the locker room where the smell of sweat and safeguard soap souped the air. "Chalk talk," he said. And we watched as the dusty lines of plays and formations went up. We heard friends called retards, and that winners never quit and quitters never win, and believed. Next morning we hit the fields, bruised and bled for Coach's glory, and celebrated our mud-given rights in showers and foot powder. Then, 2 weeks into the season, a kidney problem took me out of practice. Coach knew why, but quitters never win. I stopped getting dates and going to the after-game parties. They stripped my sweater of its letter. Jokes punched me. Gut drills and wind sprints I did not run. Years passed. I graduated into life after. Old classmates live and dead on their farms. Their unhappy husbands who divorce and remarry. The news is Coach quit to become a salesman. Yearbooks and trophies pass on to addicts, but I go on to greater things. Watch me. If I ever find out exactly where that coach went to, I'm going to send that poem to him and see if he can figure it out. And now that I had him as an English teacher in junior high and high school both, and despite all the damage that he did for me in English class, I became an English major, and now teaching English. And this next poem was about the experience of teaching English in college, and it's called Thesis. And the way I came about this poem was that I borrowed a couple things. I had a colleague down in Springfield, Missouri at SMSU who had a student turn in an incredibly stupid thesis statement on a research paper. I borrowed that thesis statement for this poem. And then this last summer I had a student in my composition class up here who had terrible times getting started writing in-class writing assignments. Her writing process was kind of like an old Model T that you had to crank start. And once she got it crank started, it still didn't run very good. And so I threw her into this poem as well. It's prefaced by a line by D.H. Lawrence called Out of Lady Chatterley, one of my favorite books. I've seen every single movie of Lady Chatterley. But anyway, the line goes, "What the eye doesn't see and the mind doesn't know doesn't exist." And that will explain the thesis here a little bit too. Today her paper is a purse she's digging frantically through to find whatever thing she is trying to find. Crumpled paper everywhere. Look, that one's a lipstick. That one's some hand lotion. That one's some Kleenex. A nail file, a keychain, now some candy, now a letter, now a wallet infected with photographs. I had said, write a narrative, try a thesis for guidance, base your writing on something you've done. She's perplexed. One leg crosses the other, uncrosses. The other takes his turn. She hypnotizes the ceiling, but no words bite her down on angelic threads. The calligraphy of scuff marks on the floor can't be translated. Now her hand swims through waves of dark brown hair. The hand drowns. The well of an eye fills. Now it is a lake. Her classmates lower their heads at their work. She wraps her sweater around her shoulders and shrinks. Now she's staring at me, the Punisher. She hates me. I whip her papers and make them bleed. I criticize. The words bruise. She fears F. Prays to God F will not visit her house. What's a thesis? Hell. What's it do? Makes her cold. What has she done that's cold? Played in snow, ice skated on a pond, gone to Canada. What was there? Trees and lakes and chill. What did she see? Trees and lakes and snow. Grandma's cat and dog. Thesis. There are no wild animals in Canada. I flew there. I saw nothing but clouds dark with snow. People read. Some slept. I watched out the window and saw the ground rise. Everyone hurried in the airport, Granddad grabbing bags and pushing us toward his car, the snow falling. Hours dragged. Trees and lakes. I went to sleep. No elk or geese. No bull moose lumbered through my dreams. Nothing but chilled wind. Grandma's house was warm, and I played with Fuzz and Jeff. She wears no triumph on her face. Doubt's makeup is beauty. She does a sitting dance and sweeps her mess into her purse. She pulls on her coat, dragging it like a slab of cement. She walks the last mile to my desk. I am standing there beside my throne. She hates to face God, yet she must. You hate me, she smiles. You are F, the giver of F. How can you hate me so much? How can you not see what I saw, my unanimaled Canada? She does not understand me at all. Okay, I think I'm going to skip this one and go on to the next one. If I have a poem of philosophy, this is about as close as I ever will probably get. It's called In the Company of Pagans. It's a poem written in 4 parts, not necessarily chronological. I have to say that to keep me out of trouble. The chronology that would have actually been the thing does not fit the poem, so I didn't do it that way. 1. In fog of soul's mind, I hear the coyotes cry between the blasts of wind that shake the panes. Snow pummels the house while here in bed tame warmth dulls the man to himself. Aye, aye, the wailing goes, an Indian chant, all of bitterness or joy. At least I hear it nonetheless, while God upon his quiet throne loves them in his absence. The whole mad world is deaf. Its damned clock drones. The coyotes gnaw on night, and me upon my self-indulgence. 2. Gravel roads. Near Myra Creek one cool May night, drinking though not drunk enough to harm, I caught one preoccupied on a cow path knob, sniffing on the air. High beam blinded, fright thrusting him away, he ran his stupid death straight line with me recklessly driving after him. But life was kept sacred that time. I stopped in dusty skid to let him run. The chase at end, I shut the car off and crawled on top his heated hood to share my beer with stars and friends. One August, many years past, another road, another dust blooming behind the pickup truck, we saw a coyote hunting gophers in a brown pasture short of cover. My brother's hand raced as the truck shuffled to halt, and his gun was there, thrust before me to take the shot. Honor dumbed, I poured my beer into my lap, but took my careful aim and let it go. A cloud rose. The shot showered dirt beneath the coyote's belly, and he was gone. I made blame. I'm drunk, I said. The drinking hurt. 3. Sometimes at night, after the kids are asleep, after their mother has read herself into the good oblivion of dreams, after the 2 cats have found their corners and crept into them, I go outside to burn trash. Sometimes there's stars, sometimes not, sometimes brush of snow swept on wind, but always my fire, brilliant, orange, and always those who hide in the hills and night's homey shadows, a choir of grief to whom I give such small light. 4. Donna. March wind, the furnace down, and the house near ice, we went to bed, undressing under the blankets and sheets. What loss of ourselves we found that night. Her clinging to my guilt left me colder than the cold. I failed at sex. She wanted to know what was wrong. It was her. It was us. I couldn't tell her. The clock showed 4. Coyotes sobbed somewhere. Naked, shivering, sleep took us. Then, next day, she asked to stay. I told her no. Let's see. A couple more things I guess I want to do about maybe 3. I want to do these 2 for sure because they kind of explain in some ways the writing process I think I go through sometimes. They're not about writing per se, but yet they're kind of like the process. I had a great uncle who collected rocks. He was forever going out and digging around and coming up with arrowheads and big hunks of petrified wood and what have you. And he is I guess, the inspiration for this poem. And it's called The Rockhound. I have this problem, a severe lack of talent, an inadequacy in the eye to see deep enough to sort at a standing glance the prize from the sand. I spend days grazing the grasslands, now and then kicking dirt in anger, now and then sifting excitedly through a blowout centuries. Sometimes it's months before I find a keeper, an agate, or an arrowhead. Sometimes so long I fool myself into thinking I found a fossil or a geode's bony back, rawing the fingers in glassy gravel, only to unearth a rusty gear, a root, a can. Sometimes a nephew goes with me, half trying, half bored with effort, and he discovers the best ones. Rattlesnake agates, obsidian, moonstone, flint. Sometimes even beautiful little points hundreds of years old. I've done this forever and have yet to enjoy such luck. On shelves in my home I have maybe only 60 stones polished down, 2 good blue hunks of petrified wood, maybe 4 dozen white to gray broken points. A few of these I found by accident, herding leaves with a rake or skipping stones on Wyoming's Powder River, but most took months of stalling work. I have besides 2 other trophies, the blue-green scars on my left chin, a 2-pointed one where the rattlesnake struck while I was scaling rocks at Sonora, the other a cross-shaped cut where I opened the wood and bent to suck it clean. Falling back sick, I passed out, then woke next morning to find my hand clutching the piece of turquoise I set into this ring. Another poem of search, I guess. This was published in Prairie Schooner back in '85, and it's called Digging for Fossils. And then you come face to face with it, some wide-eyed fish stuck in stone, surprised to find you there in his ocean, shocked at the light that never disturbed him even as he lived. And you can't begin to find words enough to show the value of this meeting. You try, but all that comes from your throat are little chipping sounds like a chisel and hammer tapping at the rock. And maybe it's predictable. But later, when you crawl into your tent to sleep, and mosquitoes buzz about your head like sand silting to a lake's bottom, you hear the same chipping sound. You open your eyes wide in surprise, the light flushing in eons around you, then surprise again when you see the bright blue eyes of someone looking at you, tape in hand to measure your occipital, the jut of your jaw, the distance between the centers of your eye sockets. You hear the low sound of her voice speaking a language that sounds like metal against rock, and you're wanting to tell her what it is. You could tell her. Okay. I think I'll end with one more poem. I've never read this one anyplace before, but I'm going to try it tonight. It's a fairly recent poem, political poem, which I don't write very often. Nebraskans for Peace ought to like this one, probably, if anybody was with that group. It's called A Vigil at a Missile Silo near Warrensburg, Missouri. If you know anything about that part of Missouri, there are hundreds of missile silos around. And it's kind of spooky, living around that area and driving down the highway and seeing these installations off to the side of the road. Anyway, A Vigil at a Missile Silo. Because I did not marry a bomb, nor impregnate a bomb, nor watch a bomb swell in the belly of a bomb, because I did not study the bomb in Lamaze classes, nor watch a bomb crown and deliver and cry, nor hold the bomb purple and cold and scared in the bomb's white light, nor walk the floor late at night with the bomb sucking its bottle. Because I do not have friends for bombs, nor relatives, nor pets, nor students, nor habits, because I do not smoke the bomb or eat it or drink it, because I do not want to sleep with a bomb or hear a bomb snore, because I do not want to dream bombs and wake sitting up my heart a bomb, because I do not want bombs for neighbors, nor have them park their bombs in my driveway, nor have them leave their bombs unmowed, nor allow their bombs to bark all night, because I do not want to pick up their filth, nor bathe with a bomb looking in the window, or calling me on the phone, or reading the newspaper over my shoulder, or selling me chances in a raffle. Because there is only one thing to fear or hate, the world should not be a bomb, a nation should not be a bomb, a man should not be a bomb or have ideas that are bombs. A bomb should not be a bomb. It should be humanity exploding myth, the quiet earth of a re-imaged man. There. Thank you.